Wow, look at this gem. Oh, it's a Trek checkpoint. Yeah, pretty cool little gravel bike for sure, but it's missing a lot of pieces. Where's the shifters and cables? Oh, this is a build, custom build from a customer. He bought this frame off of, I think, Facebook or Craigslist or somewhere, and it was damaged. He did the carbon repair himself. And now he wants to put it all together about the wheels, componentry. This is going to be an interesting reassembling of a new custom built, in a sense, custom parts built, not custom built frame. Two different things there. But in any case, we're going to review the awesomeness of this checkpoint once we get it all completed. And come across any scaries, I'll definitely bring them to light after this. Hey, welcome back to Annoying Guy Bicycles, Hanging with a Guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on this old bike series. Not so old, but hey, it's one of those repairs that we get in shops periodically where a customer has bought a frame, bought some wheels, bought some box of parts, and lo and behold, they're asking upon us to do our magic and make it a bike. Yeah, wow, go figure. Is he in the right hands? Yes, he is. Yeah, I've been putting bikes together for 35 years. It's kind of crazy how long I've been doing this. Yeah, this is a little bit newer. We're doing with hydraulic brakes system with disc, in addition to a one-by. How to do a conversion of the bottom bracket and internal cable routing. So this has all sorts of craziness. Lo and behold, I also had a frame damage that was actually fixed by him as well. Actually did a pretty good job. I would not say too bad, not too shabby at all, not at all. In any case, I had to get some extra bits in order for him. Well, another one is a tool for the bottom bracket. I didn't have that specific tool to replace that bearing cut sleeve, which, you know, I went down to my local shop here and they helped me pop it loose, but I had one on order. So anyway, long story short, got the tool to put the new one in. Then I had to get some cable or housing for the hydraulic. That was a tricky bit to find due to the fact that there's a lot of housing for mountain bike cables, not necessarily for road apex and what level. Level 1, of course. So in any case, yeah, got the parts in, got some new bar tape for him too, but what he's doing is converting the bottom bracket, and it had, I believe, a Shimano in there, and he's going over to a SRAM, and he has a SRAM Apex 1 shifter hydraulic 1-by. So we got some fun little adjustments on this, definitely. Yeah, the Checkpoint Trek. Well, let's talk about what is this bike, right? It is under the gravel umbrella. Gravel umbrella. It does have a little bit of wider clearance. You can probably get some pretty decently wide tires. Probably like a 40 centimeter or something like that. Pretty aggressive in a sense that you could do this light trail riding, including dirt roads and what have you. Well, where did the gravel bike come from? Well, the gravel bike basically is a necessity for those who ride road bikes that not wanting to be on the road as much, or had really bad road conditions or a lot of dirt roads available for them to ride, where they were trying to convert the skin of the last tire into a little bit knobbier tire and still not fall down on the dirt, right? Okay, gravel bikes kind of blew up in about, I would say about 9 or 10 years ago. Kind of that's when I started seeing them in the scene, and pretty cool concept, but it's not a new concept whatsoever. It's actually a 100-year-old concept what we're talking about. The gravel bike is actually a child or byproduct or whatever you want to call it. Child. Even I am one, so whatever. Any case, fill in the blank. From cyclocross. Well, cyclocross, you probably have heard of cyclocross. Yeah, of course you've heard of cyclocross. If you're in any kind of cycling circles, cyclocross is a fun little sport, which is a track based on time, and basically you have to get off the bike and run certain sections and get back on. It's usually a mud fest. The worse the weather, the better. I would say most professional racers that are in mountain riding or also road riding Love that sport because it's kind of it's like kind of the ending of the season. Let's go do some cyclocross racing. Although there are some people that's all they do is cyclocross racing. Good for them. It is a fun race also to watch because you don't have to like wait all day and see them zoom by and then that's it. It's a circuit, so they have to go through and around and around and around, and it's pretty watchable as a spectator, kind of like a crit. A lot of fun, but a lot more fun than a crit. Anyway. In any case, it's a cyclocross bike converted now into road. Okay, there are some differences. Obviously, a little bit lower bonnet bracket, a little more mounts and so forth on this. Kind of like adventure riding / kind of bike for the newer ones. Well, the cyclocross. Well, where did cyclocross come from? Well, in Europe, back in the day. They actually had road races that would go late into the season or too early and to get caught in cold weather. These little dumb wankers would keep riding even though they were starting to get frostbite and eventually started losing some fingers and toes. Brilliant, right? In any case, the race organizers at the time was like, okay, these guys are just going to keep going, so we're going to have to break this up. How are we going to break it up? Get them off their damn bike and have a running section to warm the body back up so they can get back on the bike and ride. Brilliant, right? So that kind of cut back of the losing the fingers and the toes and, you know, those kinds of things, which is probably great. But it became an actual sport, which is a circuit based off of time, usually like 30 minutes, and you're just basically just all out, right? And it's usually worse weather, the better. It's kind of a fun mud fest, snow fest, rain fest sport. The ones I've seen were nicer weather days, probably because I'm a fair weather spectator. Anyway, I've ridden in those conditions mountain biking, and I don't want to be out there that cold unless I'm sledding. Any case, that actually is a pretty cool sport, which actually they produced, yes, cyclocross specific race bikes throughout the decades. I've been riding them for several decades. For me, learning right off the bat, road riding was really kind of not for me because I would probably get killed on Parker Road back in the day trying to ride to work and back. And mountain bike was really kind of sluggish and so forth. But the cyclocross bike with a little bit wider tire with a little enough edge on it, I can jump off road and cut through paths and do dirt roads and, whoa, lo and behold, an excellent commuter and just recreational bike. Love the thing. Buddies of mine got the same thing. We rode them all over the place. Yeah, for decades before it became a thing. Well, lo and behold, you would only get like 1 or 2 models at best from each model or company. Like Trek would have 1 or 2 and Specialized would have 1 or 2. And they got a little better because it became more of a sport. And then they started adding carbons and so forth to some of the models, but not all. But it was very kind of limited. So it's kind of like you got 1 and then you have 400 road bikes to choose from. Not the greatest. But about 10 years ago, gravel, great idea. So the band and the companies finally listened to what the needs were, or actually build upon the needs, and lo and behold, the disc brakes being incorporated with road bikes became a brilliant solution of getting wider ass tires on road bikes, which lo and behold, gravel bikes. There we go. So living with gravel bikes today, there's several different models, several different colors, several different levels. Every company has about 400 of them now because it is the hottest things besides e-bikes. And yeah, they have e-bike gravel bikes too. Whoa, shocker, right? In any case, when you're looking at this particular bike, it has a little bit lower bonnet bracket than your cyclocross. It has also little bolts to hold on bags and all sorts of stuff. In cyclocross, you got to flip that bike up on your shoulder. That's why the cable routing is always on the top, so you wouldn't have any space there. These can be used in cyclocross racing, and they actually are all the time. The geometries fit a little bit between the different brands, of course. That's what makes them brands. And the particular models, like the Checkpoint versus another model in the Trek line, will probably be a little bit different. This was a full carbon with a little ISO thing in the back, which gives you a little bit of flex to save your ass. That's what it is, the butt comfort. Up front, though, you probably might see some in the Specialized may have that little future shock. Well, probably not, because that would be a greater liability. Anyway, let's go Diverge. This particular one, kind of crazy. Has a little has a port. This is more designed for adventure riding, looking at all the mount support the screws in the frame, so you can bag the hell out of this thing and go for some great rides and put a fender on there, maybe a fender. Yeah, fenders and racks and the whole 9 yards. Any case, this cat, his customer, great customer, he first got into this whole cycling bit by buying a Poseidon. Just figured something, I'm going to have this Foco Fondo gravel race and I want to do this. And so lo and behold, he got this bike. And he implored me to build it up for him. New out of the box, put it together, some modifications, great little bike. Awesome for the money. They actually have a new model that just dropped, the Titan or something like that, under $1,000. Not too bad for a gravel bike. Any case, back to this one here. He got into cycling. Then he got himself a used road bike, a Cannondale, featured in the video, one below. Pretty awesome little ride. Turned out to be in mint condition. This is a great time to buy used bikes. I mean, some people, the prices are just dropping. They're staying there and they're sitting, and there's great room to negotiate some really good deals, right? In any case, he bought that, hardly used, put a lot of effort to bring up to back to life. It turned out to be almost like new. Beautiful. Check out the video. Well, here and lo and behold, we want to go back to a gravel bike. He's like, oh, I want to cross the checkpoint. His wife got one, but she paid the $3,500 or $2,500 or whatever it was on sale. He's like, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm going to buy used. Listen to the guy, and we can figure something out. Well, he picked up his bike frame. It was damaged. He picked up a $100 carbon repair kit. Did a pretty decent job. So he's probably like $315 with the frame and the carbon kit, wheels and some parts. Lo and behold, I think we'll keep him under, even with my tune-up and everything, under $1,000. Under $1,000 for a $2,500 bike, not a bad deal. Plus, when you do that, you can customize it to exactly what you want, as in shifters and brakes and wheels and all that kinds of stuff. You can't do that economically new. A lot of people do it, and they lose a lot of money over it. You can do a whole bunch of piecing a bike together if you know what you're doing, do your research on used. Used parts are becoming readily available everywhere, and the prices have gone down, so you can pick yourself up a frame, pick out some componentry that you would like, you get it a wheel set that's smoking for you, and then you can get the other little extra bits that you deem fit to be excellent for your kind of riding, right? So this is a great example of cherry picking those pieces and putting it together. Yeah, it might be a year older or two, but shoot, I mean, it's still a bike, and if it works underneath you, it's a great investment. Regardless, you may end up spending a little bit more, but if it's exactly custom to what you want and the kind of ride you're feeling for, how can you go wrong? I mean, it's going to be one of those things you jump on and like, bam, this fits like a glove, and I'm having a great time. Case in point, this little mom behind me, same damn thing. I mean, I just had the frame and fork. It was kind of damaged, fixed it, got some wheels, got some componentry, and I'm going to do some upgrades to it at some point, but I just got it rolling. It's my go-to bike path bike now. I mean, I fly down the road, got some old classic $1,000 wheel set on there, which didn't cost me hardly anything because the rims are kind of cracked a little, and I don't mind riding on that because I'm a mechanic. I know how to watch out for things like that. Keep an eye on it. But in any case, it's kind of like my hodgepodge of warranty parts still are okay. I don't feel comfortable selling, but yet I think they still have a little bit of life left in them, and I'm willing to take that risk. In any case, don't implore that to you to do yourself. Always go with safety first. I'm kind of living on the edge on that. In any case, yeah, the new things are like a bottom bracket he had to get on this. He bought a used set of Apex componentry. Oh yeah, he got that for like super silly, like $100 or $150 or something crazy like that. A one buy, and then he had to buy the extra crankset and so forth. So yeah, I think within the parts themselves right now, we're looking right about the $500 to $600 threshold. And you know, for the tune-up on this, we'll probably put up to about 7 or 8. And you're still under $1,000. Hey, you can't not think about that. And if you're into cycling and you have a couple bikes and you want to custom stuff up, this is a great opportunity to do so. I got a little story to tell you about a friend of mine. So the story goes, a buddy of mine from the bike shop days has decided that he's getting a little aged like me, and were well seasoned, you know, vintaged. Yes, he decided to find himself a titanium bike. He did, found it on eBay. It's a framed brand, which was one of those brands that apparently didn't make it and got sold to shop. Well, I don't know. In any case, brand new disc brake, through axle, gravel bike frame, and actually came with a fork, handlebars, stem, and seat post. And it was like under 800 bucks. I mean, a titanium bike with under 800 bucks. New? Nuts. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll feature that in a future video when he brings it up to do a show and tell. But in any case, that's what you can do. He did the same thing. He's doing the microshift sword componentry and found himself some decent wheels. He just wanted to get the bike to be built up and ride it and see how he feels about the geometry and the feel and all that, because that's where the huge thing is for us cyclists and bike mechanics. Been working in the industry for a long time. We know fit and ride is the huge, most important thing, and you really don't know until you know, right? Especially on a gravel bike, you hit the dirt and so forth. He figured he can build it up, and if it doesn't work out for him, he can just dump it and sell it and get most of his money back out of it. Or if it works out great, then you start looking for componentry to upgrade and do a little bit better wheels, do better componentry, as long as the frame and fork does them solid. Yeah, we're going to check that out, and they have another one still for sale. I might have to just get that. Don't tell the wife. Hopefully she's not watching. In any case, back to the checkpoint. Interesting bike, internal cabling. I've done a lot of internal cabling over the years. So this one's really a tricky bit. The housing for the shifting goes all the way to the back. Same thing obviously for the brakes because they're hydraulic. So, and you have to lace it through the frame, and you got to go through the underneath the bottom bracket. And to be able to lace it through, you got to pull the bottom bracket out anyway. I'm going to strip this down. It has to be stripped down to just do what I'm supposed to be doing to it anyway. So therefore, I'm going to be laying these cables through and trying to get them all buttoned up. And so essentially it's also tubeless. So the front tire is not holding air. When I pop the bead off, there's no liquid in there. Weird, huh? So I think I just threw some tires on there. I don't know what the case may be. So I'm going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb because the wheels, the componentry, and the frame and fork came through 3 different peoples. That's a lot. So we're going to make sure that each party was represented and make sure each sets of componentry is ready to be installed and safe to ride. Yeah, and ironically, that's the 3 basic things when you look at a bike: frame and fork, wheels, and componentry. Huh, nuts. Huh, weird. In any case, well, hopefully we don't come across anything scary. Hopefully it just kind of comes together without any major mysteries. Bleeding the brakes, it's going to be questionable because they were cut and not together, so you don't know. And it's a dot fluid, so not the, I'm not super keen on it, but whatever. In any case, so there's going to be some questionable parts that may or may not work out on this, so I'll highlight those troublesome parts when I come across them. Hopefully there's nothing but just normal doing my thing. The wheels seem to be true, they seem to be smooth. Get the tubeless thing all figured out, clean them up, put some coating on some stuff. I mean, I'm not super detailing the frame on this one. He didn't want that. Just basically just kind of inspect it. I might throw a little bit of coating on there, but obviously through the inspection. This is designed for front derailleur, which is on 1x, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to take all the junk that goes with that 1x off. This one's actually incorporated, so I can't take the hanger off, but the little cable guide thing I might ditch, and then do some extra inspection. Yeah, it's cracked. I wouldn't suggest buying a cracked frame, but if you're thinking you can fix it, sure, and if you're willing to take that risk, why not? A lot of us live on the edge, and what the hell. In any case, there's no guarantee even a new frame is not going to crack and crash on you. So anyway, also with carbon repair, in most cases, even if you do it yourself, you're beefing up that area to such a thick degree compared to what they do at the factory, where they try to get the thinnest possible. It's kind of like when you break your arm and put a titanium plate in there, it's going to be the strongest point. Same thing with the carbon. You layer the freaking hell out of it with so many layers, and with the whatever kind of, it's not glue, plastic, I don't know. It's kind of like a favorite. Don't do the fiberglass thing. That's just no bueno. But the actual carbon has that resin. It has to be done in heat. So you're going to stand there for a long time with a heat gun, or do it in the summertime when you have 85 to plus degrees in your garage, and you stick that damn thing in there and let it cook over the day or so. So you have to use a heat gun to shrink wrap it down. There's several videos of carbon repair out there. I still would suggest taking it to a professional. They do charge something like this, would have been up in like $600 or $700. So you have to weigh if it's worth it for you to do. But carbon is repairable. It's repairable yourself. I have a couple of frames that I'm going to get around to at some point if I ever get enough damn time to not do other things. If I ever get bored, which is never. There's a couple dime size holes on a couple frames I have, which this kind of repair would, like a $100 kit would probably take care of 3 frames. And there I got to lie. It's like, okay, do I feel strong enough that it's safe to sell, or should I just let it go? I don't know. I'm just kind of on the fence on that. I did find or vetted a carbon repair place in Salt Lake, I believe, in Utah, or in Ogden, Utah. And then they actually, I think, buy damaged carbon frames pretty cheap. So I'll probably reach them first, because they'll do it professionally. That's what they do. I am definitely a person that's behind. If you're doing something and that's your business and you do it really well, why not use it? Same thing for the suspension work. Some shops, they try to do everything. You can't do it. So there's a shop called, what is it? It's in Longmont. Dirt Labs. Dirt Labs is a company that's all they do is suspension. You can send your shock to them, they do it right, and then send it back to you. Well, in any case, that's where the industry is kind of breaking up. Everybody's going to have their little niche, because we're going to have to downsize, right, to smaller shops, probably close to mine, hopefully not, but they're going to be more niche shops. So one shop will be just e-bike repair. Another shop, which is one in Fort Collins, Colorado, and one's for suspension, which is Dirt Labs in Longmont. So you're going to find those kind of niches. So it's going to be your general mechanic that's kind of like me, but if I need to send something out to be worked on, that may be the future of the little bike shop world. And then you'll have your Dick's Sporting Goods, Walmarts, Sports Authority, they're no longer, Trek stores, corporate, specialized corporate stores, all them as well. So we'll see where this all unfolds, but in this case, we're going to put this bad boy together and see what we have. So hopefully you'll just see some clean parts and partial frame that's ready to be reassembled. We'll check this out. Well, here we have it. This is very interesting. So working on this particular bike was quite a bit of a challenge for several different reasons. One is actually just the general inherent design of the bike, in addition to buying used parts off of the used market. In any case, the individual, to recap, he bought the frame and fork. He knew it was damaged. He repaired it himself. So you can see the actual carbon repair here, which is actually did a pretty decent job for just doing it for the first time. So in that case, the frame and fork is probably pretty decent. Carbon repair is really not that scary-ish. Reason being is if you do it correctly, it's actually stronger in that point where it broke than it would be on the rest of the frame. Due to the fact, same kind of case in point, if you broke your wrist and put a titanium plate in it, same kind of thing. They build up a lot more carbon than there would have been there originally. So that's actually not the big concern. So when diving into this bike and basically taking it apart, they had original bottom bracket in there from the previous owner. Had to get a different tool. It's not a standard old school tool. It has its own tool for that Shimano kind of press fit style bearing. Found that, took it apart, super crusty and dirty underneath. So it's been used and abused. That's still not the problem. Not a problem there. Got a new bottom bracket for the SRAM crankset, which is fine, but again, a different tool that does not match the Shimano one. Therefore, had to get another tool. So you have to buy 2 tools to just work on this particular bike. So there's the lift of the mechanic part, where if you have to constantly add tools to your plethora, and maybe I'll be working on quite a few of these down the road, and that tool will be used several times, or it might be used one and done, and I just spent 26 bucks, 30 bucks on a tool that only will see light of day maybe once a year. That happens. In any case, that's still not the problem. The inherent design is the all-mother pain in the butt of this particular style of bike. And it's not just a Trek thing, it is a industry thing. Reason being is everybody wants their cables tucked away and hidden in. That's nothing new. That's been around since several decades. I've seen internal routings, which I featured on my channel with several different bikes. Even back in the 80s, they had, and even before that, internal routing here and there. They've gotten so complicated, the head tube area, which is just a mess. So when I started taking this apart, the bearings were super crusty, dirty, just as much as the bottom bracket. Didn't concern me too much about the bottom bracket because it was being replaced. The front bearings, though, although need a double check. So I pulled those bearings out, pulled the seals, cleaned them ultrasonic, refreshed the lubes, and put them back in. They're pretty decent. They were crunchy before, and they're actually fairly smooth now. So it should be good for a while. The cable routing, here's the tricky bit on this. Well, first you got hydraulic line. That's 2 hydraulic lines going through the front. You don't have a front derailleur. If it did, it'd be another 4th line, which is designed to take, which is fine. The cables and housing, how they're laced, and they go through this head tube. They go through this cavity, but they also, one of the fork hydraulic line goes through the fork steer tube, through the fork itself, and pops out the end of the bottom down here, which is okay-ish. And the 2 other ones go through the frame, and it's a solid piece of housing for the shifter. That could be good or bad. The jury's out on that one. In any case, the reason why they cut cable stops in the first place back in the day is to reduce weight and reduce friction. Well, now you have weight and friction all the way through the whole frame with that extra cable housing for the rear derailleur. Not too big a deal. They have to do that with hydraulics because obviously they don't have electronic braking yet, which that'll probably be coming down the road at some point. I've seen some demos of some random ones. Actually, it's something that's coming down the line. But at this point, had a hydraulic. So the wheels were not bad. There's basically the sealant was dried up, and I just had to refresh the sealant. The wheels are actually in pretty good condition. You got a brand new knockoff, 0 brand name rotors off of Amazon, and unfortunately, they were not true. So I had to smash those and bend them to not do this thing through the brake pads. Well, the biggest Achilles heel on this particular project was the brake lever. The brake lever on the right side, on the original one that you got, the Apex one, was a bad one. I spent like 2 hours flushing it, trying to get it to work, all of that. Had to get a whole new housing kit, which is 50 bucks, by the way, just for one side to get that hydraulic line. And then I got I was so frustrated. I was like, okay, I'll do the front and see if I'm doing something wrong. I got to a point that I thought I was doing something wrong. Turns out what I did, the directions through the SRAM video and everything for the front, bled first time, boom, out of the gate, perfect. So I had the actual old head checked at the local store that I go to here just to see. They flushed it, and they identified it was a bad piston inside the brake lever, and they don't make replacements, at least in the States that I found out. Through the customer, he found a replacement piston somewhere overseas, but we'll see if that comes with rotation. So he bought another set of used ones. I'm like, okay, well, we'll give this a try. He said it came from a bike shop or whatever. Some of these backstories, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, the result is the same. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We bled this one, and it worked. Boom! Finally, we got it to work. So the brake, they're not great, but it still works. It cycles and it stops. That's all I'm going to ask at this point, because it's not new stuff. I'm not looking for high performance, even though it's upper end, older stuff. But hydraulic, buyer beware, especially if it's using the DOT fluid systems. That will eat the insides up of those particular parts at some point, versus the other brands that use mineral oil have less breaking down and have a better longevity of performance. Note. Also, DOT fluid is crap to work with. It's horrible to work with. It's not good on your skin. All that stuff. It's messy. You have to have a completely separate bleed kit. All those kinds of things. So, Granted, it is what it is, and that's how the industry goes. But looking at the design of the bike, I mean, yeah, it's fancy and aero and all that, and talking to some of the guys at the store that, you know, sell Trek, and talking about how complicated of a pain in the butt to do. I mean, I spent 2 hours just threading the cables. That's it. Just get them to go through correctly through the frame. Yeah, it's fancy and so forth, but get this, okay? To replace a hood on this, you can't go over because you'll stretch it out. So you have to take it all apart, disconnect the lines to put the hood on, and re-bleed the brakes. Number one, industry pain in the ass, not consumer friendly at all. Number two, internal routing here. If you have a bad headset bearing, you have to strip all the shit completely off to get that bearing to be replaced. Then you can lace it all through again. Number two, as a non-friendly consumer use bike. So, okay. And granted, this is my soapbox here. It's been a while since I've worked on any of the newer stuff because most of the stuff is more vintage and what have you. Or I haven't had to dive into this directly on the new aero design. It's complete BS because the savings you're going to get from aerodynamics and the efficiency actually is counterintuitive. You're not gaining anything. It's just, it looks cool. And that's what they're really selling is that $5,000 road bike. It looks cool. You're more aero and all that. But it's not mechanically friendly. So yeah, you're going to be paying a higher premium to have these bikes worked on from a bike mechanic. And sure shit, you're not going to be able to do it yourself. Due to the fact because it's so complicated. I mean, it's one of those things you got to have the specialty tools for the body bracket and the headset and all that kind of stuff. You already had those issues already. And now you add the complexity of cable routing and, you know, bleeding the brakes and all that. The industry is not doing anybody any favors on bikes like this. Yeah, it's going to be a fun bike to ride. It's going to be cool and whatever until you have to have those issues addressed. Then you're going to have to see a guy like me and go, oh, I have a problem. And they're going to be like, well, that's going to be a $300 lift to get a new bearing in there. And you're going to say, what? It's like, we have to take all the cables and housing out. By doing that, we have to take it all out, replace the bearings, then we have to re-bleed your brakes, which is roughly $45 per brake, industry cost, relace your cable and housing for your rear derailleur, which is another $15-$20 lift, and then you got the cost of the bearings and actually the labor of putting it all back together. Yeah, people, stuff like this adds up in the long run. Yeah, in any case, it's not going to change. The industry is going that direction. The people that make these types of decisions are not thinking about user-friendly. They're thinking about aerodynamics and so forth. Bikes like this, and as well as tri-bikes, the electronic shifting has saved you and saved a lot of customers a lot of hassle because they got rid of the extra cabling. But the braking, you still have that. You got two cables housing ports for your braking. That's not electronic yet, so that still lies an issue. In any case, this bike is finally together and ready for the customer. I think he's going to love it. He's going to really enjoy it. Did a lot of learnings on this of dealing with the head tube and also use componentry. So yes, if you're out there buying used hydraulic brake systems, as well as suspension and parts and bits as well, you're going to have to get it at a price where you're going to be okay with a loss. That's just how it is. And if you're selling it, don't be expecting big dollars off of it because there's going to be anticipation of a loss. Therefore, hydraulic systems are not a really good used market for resale because there's so many little things that go wrong with them. Same thing with suspension. As long as it's like been certified, approved by a mechanic or a shop and have some insurance on that, in other words, you can return it or get some of your money back. Maybe you can do that in some of the used market, maybe not. In any case, we're going to take this for a test ride and see how this beautiful bike rides. So I don't want to be too much of a Debbie Downer. I mean, this is a pretty slick bike, but when you think about the things that they're designing these days and going forward, just really kind of irks me that just kind of, you're just overcomplicating things when they shouldn't be this so complicated. But in any case, here we go. Yeah, it stops. Even those rotors are not a complete match for brand to brand. He does have another set that we're going to be switching out to actual SRAM rotors, so that's going to help out for the efficiency there. In addition to, we do have a wax chain on this guy where it's going to be like butter for him. He did get a new chain, and it has a nice higher end cassette that he bought with the wheel set, which worked out pretty well. So in his favor, it's going to be pretty slick. It just was a huge lift to get this thing to where it is now. But as the actual feel of the ride, this has that ISO coupler kind of thing for the design. Has a little more of a flex to the frame. Gives you a little more comfortable gravel ride experience, absorbing those bumps and jumps and all that kind of thing. It is really smooth. I do have to say the ride quality and the fit, this is pretty nice actually. I mean, this fits me like a glove. So yeah, this is pretty slick. It's more upright than your traditional road aggressive riding, so therefore you get a little more of a comfort factor there on those longer rides for gravel. And he did convert the 11-speed shifter with a 12-speed internal aftermarket piece, which actually works pretty well. And I'll put a link of that in the description below. But yeah, this actually, it's really good. And all right, so with a new chain and a used cassette, you want to start off with the small cog in the back and then put some torque and weight on it. The brake pads are used but in really good condition, so they're going to be okay. And breaking in the rotors a little bit and the pads, I want to run those a little bit here to heat them up, but not feeling anything in the first gear, as in skipping. That we're good in the second gear and the third gear. It's usually the bottom half. If you're going to have any issues with the chain skipping, being worn out cassette, it would be in those. Oh, we got some local driving there. All right, so here we go. Yeah, this is dialed. So the brakes at the best performance? Probably not. Could I get them better? I'm not really sure. I'm going to check out the rotors, have them riding for a while. Probably comp them a couple bleed at a later time. This is all completely dry install, so there might be some air bubbles still in there, but I'll have the living heck out of it. In any case, all right. We'll do one more pass, do a little extra on this one due to the fact that it's a nicer ride. Actually, it's pretty comfy. I like these bars. Nice and, whew, yeah. All right. Roll up a curb. Oh yeah. Down a curb. All right. Here's the money shot. Neighborhood money shot. Yeah, boy. Yeah, what's really nice about our neighborhood off the street here, it's long and meeker. There's two 14ers and the backdrop here between these houses, and very popular hiking trails up there, just a heads up. But yeah, that's what I get to see every morning when I walk the dog. That right there. All right, back to the ride. Okay, let's do a little recap and bring her home. Yeah, boy. Yeah, I think he's really going to enjoy this. This is very comfy. Yeah, it's just unfortunately the mechanic portion of it is just severe undertaking to get it to where it needs to be. And if there's any issues, it's going to be costly on the consumer. But you know, get what you pay for, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of weird. In any case, Repaired carbon in the back. Actually did a really good job. It's holding up fine. Got some nice drivetrains all clean, and shifts really smooth. The braking, it's okay, it works. The wheels are in really good shape. That was definitely a win on this purchase for him. The frame actually turned out to be okay after the repair, and got all the cable and housing all figured out. So it should be good for him for at least a couple seasons without any major issues, hopefully. If not, there's a couple concerned areas on the frame that I pointed out to him. There was one kind of a paint flake area. Looks like it may have a kind of another little micro crack, possibly. Something just to keep an eye on. But other than that, though, it turned out pretty solid. And this is like one of those build-ups that, you do go down that rabbit hole sometimes. When you buy a frame, then you decide to do some componentry, and then you do the wheels. There's going to be some catches and hiccups along down the road. But at the end of the day, though, these particular bikes new, you're still looking at 35, 40, 4,500 around there to get into this kind of silver quality. So he is definitely a lot less than that. But there is some things to be, keep an eye out. But in any case, thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. It's nice in your neck of woods. Please go for a ride. If you have this particular bike or something similar and have those particular issues, please comment below. And maybe there's some tips and tricks I don't know about that may help me on the next go around. In any case, thanks for hanging out with me. Have other information in the description below as well. And I hope you have a wonderful day. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, which it is in mine, I'm going to go for a ride. So see you out there on the trails. And next time, have a wonderful day. Oh, before you go, check out these awesome pictures.